recently while working on a pretty large project. You can see it there on the right hand side of the screen. Video coming soon, by the way. I came to a pretty serious realization. My dust collection is absolutely terrible. Now, for small stuff, it's fine, but for big stuff, I made a huge mess, and moving the hose around was a disaster. Here you can see what my dust collection system currently looks like. It's a vacuum and a Cyclone and a hose. But before I can get into making the new one, I had to do a little planning first. And by the way, you should check out this website. It's called craftyamigo.com, and you can literally design a PVC system right on your screen, and it'll tell you what parts you need to buy. So that's what I did. I went to the store, and I bought everything I needed, at least the PVC parts, in order to make a brand new dust collection system that fits into my workbench. The plan so far is just to buy the pieces, get it all put together, and then, kind of take it from there. That's how I like to roll. So the first step was to take all the pieces that I got and lay them out logically on the table, so that way I knew I wasn't completely nuts and I wasn't missing any parts. One thing you'll notice is that I avoided buying too many 90-degree angles. One thing I saw online was that if you have too many 90-degree angles, you lose a bunch of suction. So instead, I went with these, I think they're 45-degree angles. And I'm essentially taking Y-shaped adapters and then turning it 45 and 45 to make 90 and the pipes coming out. So after I got all these stuff lined up, then I could move forward with the rest of the plan. So here's the layout in its most basic form. As you can see, it's going to run down the middle of the table, obviously under the table, and make this little angle all the way around to the Cyclone that is there on the end now after I rearranged it. And there will be ports for all of my devices and, of course, my table saw all the way at the end. The first thing I needed to do was drill a hole through the support so that way I had a place to run the pipe. Ah yes, very nice hole. And you can see it kind of lines up. And then through the next support. This one was much harder. Hole saws are terrible. And looking back at myself working on this right now and thinking about how I had no idea what I was in for putting this all together, drilling this one hole seemed like not a big deal. Yeah, it was a pain to drill the hole, but it was just under the table, get under there, drill the hole, whatever, get it over with. The amount of things that I had to do underneath this table, I care never to do again. And don't worry, you'll see soon. Just a quick check, run the pipe through there and make sure it all fits. And of course, that's my first mistake. Missed it by that much. So cut a new piece and get that lined up for the table saw, which I apparently forgot to record the first time I did it, but you'll see it in a second. Cutting PVC with the chop saw really isn't that big of a deal. The bigger problem that I had was, since I had no dust collection and I was working on the dust collection, this thing shot PVC everywhere. Alright, now with the new piece fit, I can go ahead and slide that in place, and everything matches up. That's great. But as you'll see later, I had to rip half of that out anyway. Now on to making all the little individual pipes that had to bridge between all of the individual fittings. All the same size, so pretty straightforward and easy to do. Now, I made sure as I was putting all these pipes together that I did actually put it together under the table. I wanted to make sure all the fittings were the right size and everything was in the right spot. You'll see in the future here that I take it out from underneath the table and put it together the rest of the way on top, but doing it under there, at least a dry fit, was easy enough and allowed me to make sure that everything was going to fit just right. And there's some of that wonderful PVC dust flying all over my shop. Can't wait to clean that up later. Wait for the glamour shots at the end. I actually cleaned all this up just so you can see how well it works when it's done. One bit of advice when you're cutting PVC, just make sure that you hang on to the pipe real tight, because if you don't, the saw will try to spin the PVC out of your hand. It's really not that hard to hang on to, but, don't take it lightly. Alright, the primary backbone's done. Now it's time to get these 45s connected so they run out to the side of the table and aren't right under the middle where I can't reach it. Again, just cut the PVC to get the length you need and get it out to where you want, and run it from there. And with those pieces cut, I can go ahead and add these extensions in, and you start to finally see the end shape of this. Everything coming out straight, perpendicular with the table on all the ports that I need. 3 on one side, 1 on the other side of the table, and then, of course, the one for the table saw, just like in the diagram. And then for connecting the bucket, I used a rubber coupler there to connect to the Cyclone, and then a piece of PVC to connect the two 90-degree turns. Those are the only two 90s in the entire system, but it was the cleanest way that I had to get it connected, and overall it worked really well in the end. The amount of grunting that I do during this process is a little alarming now that I'm watching it. And then just fit that last piece in there, and very satisfying. Now I'll turn it over to Past Me for a little bit of in-person action. All right, it's all connected. Well, except for, of course, these parts, these big empty holes. I gotta get some fittings to get this to all the right sizes that I want, but you can see that everything's in place, runs down there. I think if I turn on the vacuum right now, there wouldn't be any real suction, but... Oh, you can feel it. Yeah, you can feel it. It's there. It's not very good. Let's see. All right, so last time you saw me, I was putting this nice backbone together underneath the table. So why now am I back to a giant mess? Well, the backbone was actually the easy part. It's all 2-inch PVC, so it all fits together. I just wanted to make sure I got all the sizes of the pipe right underneath the table. Now I've taken it all out because working under there sucks, and I have to figure out the hard part. The hard part is getting this attached to all of these tools and to these blast gates, these ones. In order to get this all to work right, I have to be able to seal the air off from every single spot, and I still have to be able to attach all my tools. That's kind of the point. One other thing that I should mention, that I was a bonehead. I had hard PVC connected from the end of this pipe here down to the table saw. Well, when you tilt the table saw to 45 degrees, guess what? The whole thing shifts and it tries to drag the PVC, which it can't. So I'm going to have to get some flexible tubing there. So essentially blast gate, flexible tubing through to the table saw. Now I've already worked out some of this stuff. I know that these blast gates will hook with a 2-inch coupler, one of these rubber couplers, to the 2-inch piece of PVC. That's great. One of the things that won't work is a hard PVC coupler. They don't quite fit. I might try to maybe melt one of these and push it down on here, because I've seen PVC will stretch and then stick wherever it solidifies. The other one that I already figured out was the hose that goes to the miter saw. Because this miter saw has a very specific exhaust port, and this came with a bag, I took the fitting off the bag and I hooked it to this piece of hose with another, well, this is a 1.5 inch coupler, and it fits on here very nicely. The other thing I found is that this hose just screws directly into a 2-inch to 1.5 inch PVC reducer, which makes it super easy to just go ahead and hook up to the system. But again, I have to put the blast gate in there to finish that off. And then the final one that I figured out for attaching is this kind of like all-in-one accessory hose. It's, again, I got it from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. But this end is just a normal end. This end has these little clips and allows you to connect to a bunch of different tools. Like I have this extension here on my sander, and you can see that this just pops into here. And I want to keep this in use. I like this idea of being able to switch this hose out to a bunch of different stuff. So I did figure out how to get that connected as well, and that's over here. I don't even know if you can see it in camera, but it's literally just a 2-inch coupler, a rubber coupler that I tightened to the exact right amount, and it fits really in there nice and snug. So overall, I've got a lot of the details worked out. The PVC is cut, but I just have to figure out these blast gates, and then finally build the rest of this on top of the table, because this is exactly where it's going to go, but under the table, and I can get all the pipes cut to length and everything working. So I might as well start off with the thing that I don't know is going to work first. Let's see how it goes. I don't know why I thought this would work.
Kind of works. All right, it's been a few minutes and this is cooled. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I can get it on there. Yes, it fits, but it doesn't hold at all.
So after getting all the blast gates in place and figuring out kind of the dimensions that I needed, I just needed to make a few more cuts on the pipe, essentially to extend the distance out to the edge and get everything finalized, at least with the PVC part. Then, of course, I took all the rubber couplers that I had and patched this thing all together so I could get a semblance of something that looked like a finished product.
Okay, well, it's a lot more rubber couplers than I expected it to be, but I think it looks pretty good like this. This is essentially the closed system. So now I need to go get some more couplers because I cannibalized many of them from my other pieces that I needed them for.
All right, sorry for the terrible audio, but I ran out here after I got all the parts and just had to finish it. So here's where I'm at. I got some of this flex tubing, and obviously it just hooks right on here because it's woodworking stuff, and everything that's woodworking stuff is designed to work together. But this flex tube will come off the end and go down to the table saw once that's underneath the table. I got a couple more of these, so that way I could connect this to this piece here, and the hose goes up and around into the miter saw. And then over on this side, like I said, I got a couple of them. This is the other one I got, and so this is now attached here, and it's a snug fit, but I can work it out and in, which is what I want. I want to be able to swap tools in there. And then the other half of the pipe that I bought, I hooked up to the planer, and obviously the planer doesn't live here when I'm using it. It's just tucked up in the corner, but when it's all said and done, it will hook up over here. Obviously with the planer a lot closer than that, and that is all my accessories. So I'll show you the next step here, which is going to be terrible. It is this stuff, connecting all the PVC with the glue so it doesn't come apart, because right now, even though it looks okay sitting here on the table, if I move this a little bit, all the pipes come apart. The other thing that I realized is I can't have these on top here, and I also can't have these screws pointing upward, because when it's under the table, I won't be able to get to them. So I have to rotate everything around and keep these kind of loose for now until I get it under the table. As a matter of fact, I might just take these couplings off right here. I have to take them off anyway while I'm doing all the gluing, so I might as well just take them apart, glue all the PVC together, put it under the table, and then reattach the blast gates and tighten the screws. Anyway, I will be doing that either right now or the next day, but it won't matter to you because you'll see it in just a second. So now it's time to take everything apart and put everything back together again. I feel like that's just everything that always happens in any kind of shop project. So anyway, took it all apart, pulled all the couplers off, and began to pull the PVC parts apart so I could glue everything. Just like Past Me said, this stuff is terrible. All the plumbers out there, shout out to you for dealing with this crap, because it stinks and it's just kind of messy. But either way, powered through it. I'm going to fast forward through a bunch of this stuff as I do this, because otherwise it's pretty boring watching me do a glue job here. Either way, if you've never done this before, it's a two-part system. Put the primer on, and then you put the adhesive on and you push it together. You have to hold it there for a few seconds just for it to set up. And after it sets up, it's rock solid. I think it actually bonds the pipe together. It melts the pipe, makes a permanent connection, so it's not coming apart. And so I took the rest of it apart and started going through the process of gluing all of this together until I couldn't handle the fumes anymore and I just had to get out. I did have the door and the windows open, but it didn't really help a lot. Probably wearing a mask would have been a good idea, but hey, I'm still breathing. And as you can see, it's very solid. It's not, it's not going anywhere. I look like an idiot. So just in case you didn't notice, I did flip the entire thing over. So the left and the right are inverted here, and the reason for that is because, like I said before, the screws on the couplers had to be facing down. So just flipping the whole thing over, keeping them on top here, when it goes under the table, they'll be facing down. That was the easiest way to do it. I'm just reattaching everything here, putting the couplers and the blast gates on. I assumed putting it together up top here and then just shoving it under the table would be easy. You'll see in just a second that it probably wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But before I could fit it under there, I also realized that the hole I drilled here was perfectly fine for running the pipe through, but not perfectly fine for sliding the pipe in with it already assembled. So had to cut the hole a little bit bigger. And then I had a genius idea to try to hang this thing up by screwing a little piece of wood underneath and allowing that to swivel. And you'll see that in just a second here, and just a little foreshadowing. It didn't work out so well. Oh, look at me, thinking how smart I am. For those of you that watch YouTube just to watch the struggle, here it is. This is the beginning of the struggle. There's much more to come. But getting this thing under the table, I knew it would fit, but I didn't realize how much of a pain in the ass it was going to be. Either way, I got it in there. I flipped over that little flippy thing that I put on there with the screw, and all was well for the moment. Now, this is my first attempt at securing this thing to the table. I thought for a second I could take these little strips of metal and I could just go in there and drive some screws through, but when you only have like 1.5 inches above the pipes and you're trying to fit a drill in there or a screwdriver in there, it doesn't work out very well. It just doesn't work. Couldn't get the screw to grab, couldn't get the thing in there. This is the result.
Well, that didn't work. This thing broke, that thing broke. I need a better way to secure this, and trying to get the strapping in here with the pipe in place is like impossible. So I need to go take a break for a few minutes because I feel like punching a wall, and then I'll get back to it. All right, calm down a little bit. Went to the store, new plan. I think this is gonna work out. All right, I got these U-bolt clamp things, and the idea is they go like this, and then I can go into the table. I can pre-drill only the top hole because the bottom one won't go through anything, but I can get the top one pre-drilled, snug this up tight, tighten the screw down, and it'll hold it solid. And then I'll use this strapping. It's just plastic strap. And for the 2 spots where I already drilled like the big holes for the pipe to pass through, we'll just put the strap underneath, and that'll tighten that up a bit too. And I think that's the plan. Now I'm going to try to get this on camera, but I got to be honest with you, getting a camera shot underneath the table, not great. So we'll see how it goes.
Now we can begin struggle number 2. This is me putting the system back in place so I could figure out where the hole had to be for that U-shaped clamp. I bought 4 of those clamps. I ended up using one of them, the one I have in my hand right now. The rest of them didn't work out. Pieces of wood, they weren't tall enough. It just didn't reach. It ends up metal doesn't bend very well to, whatever you need it to do. But either way, this one worked, and you get to watch me put it in here. It does the job.
All right, I got one of them off camera because that was too much cursing for YouTube, but there it is. It's in. It's actually holding the whole thing up too, which is kind of nuts. So let's do the next one.
But it
Which
wasn't.
Should be significantly easier.
It wasn't easier. I didn't end up doing it at all, and you'll see in just a second.
All right, well, it's under there. I don't think I got any of it on video appropriately, but I'm like covered in sweat. This was a huge pain in the ass to get it up there. I'm still not 100% satisfied with it, to be honest with you. It wiggles a little bit, and I'd like to fix that, but I gotta come up with a more elegant solution for that sort of thing. And it's super hot out here, so I think I'm done until it cools off a little bit. But the good news is
It's in here.
All right, now just put the end piece on. This was pretty straightforward, just a little bit more gluing, getting it in place. One of the benefits of having this solid on here like this is that when I need to change or take the dust out of the bucket, I literally just pull the bucket out from the bottom. And the whole thing is rigid enough that it just floats there. All right, finishing touches. Put the flexible pipe on the table saw. That was pretty easy. Everything's designed to work really well. I got those little twisty screws. By the way, links in the description for all this stuff. And finally, cleaning up my mess. Overall, through all the struggle, it all was pretty terrible, but I really, really like the system. And I'll post another video later, so subscribe if you got anything out of this. And I'll give a follow-up on this and let you know how it's performed over time.